Good morning, students. We've been looking into the chapter of manufacturing industries, right? Today we look into the topic of industrial location and why is it very important. We started yesterday as well, whereby we said that because manufacturing has to be done on a massive scale, on a larger scale, it is not done at a scale where you just produce 5 or 6 or 10 items. It has to be done on a larger scale, and that is why it is very difficult to exactly match a situation or bring about a situation where you have the land, the educated and the skilled labor, the capital, even the power, the market, the material, the raw material availability, all of that in one place. It is very difficult to have it, and that's what we also discussed yesterday, that yes, that is the reason precisely why you have certain ore in certain parts of India, and that is why you have factories in other parts, in those parts. And in spite of the fact that yes, markets would not probably be there. For example, students, let's take a few major steel plants of India. So let's say Jamshedpur, in Jharkhand. Now it has the ore for making steel, that is of course there. Then it has the skilled labor, which is of course there. Power, definitely the Tatas have their own power units, so that is taken care of. But then labor is there, all that is fine. But then they don't have the market. So because whatever they produce in the amount of output that they have, Jharkhand or Orissa or West Bengal, they would never be able to absorb that kind of output. So Tatas have to look for the markets in other parts of India and in other parts of the world as well. Why? Because the markets are not there. Similarly with if you'd say, let's go to now the other part of India, let's go to Gujarat, right? Gujarat has another one of the largest steel plants, ArcelorMittal steel plant, yeah, that is in Surat. Now they do not have the ores there, you know. They have set up a plant there because why? Because it has skilled labor, it has uninterrupted 24-hour power, it has a big market. Okay, because Gujarat happens to be one of the very prosperous states of India, where there is a huge amount of industrialization that has taken place. So Gujarat is there, the another rich state of India, Maharashtra, both of them happen to be neighboring states. So markets are closer to these factories, but then they don't have the ore. Gujarat doesn't have the iron ore and the ore which is that is needed for the manufacturing of steel. So you see, they then have to import it from other parts of India, and then they bring it, all that ore through the goods trains. The goods trains, actually they are such massive factories that the good trains actually enter those factories and download all that ore that they have brought along with them. So that is what this paragraph is telling you, that it is extremely difficult to have all the factors in one place. Yeah, in case of manufacturing, it is not a service industry that you can have a power and you have a building and then you can open a bank and insurance and people start living there, and you have a laptop and you start working. No, that is not there. So after an industrial activity starts, urbanization follows. Sometimes industries are located in or near the cities. Thus, industrialization and urbanization go hand in hand, as we had seen yesterday. Many industries tend to come together to make use of the advantages offered by the urban centers, known as agglomeration economies. Gradually, a large industrial agglomeration takes place. Guys, agglomeration economy is essentially about concentrating housing and output in the same area. That's what it is. You have to understand that, as something that I just said, there would be a lot of areas, a lot of industries rather, which would have to be set up in areas which would be way away from the urban and the town areas where normally people would not be living. But then how would the companies ensure that the people actually still work there? So naturally they have to set up townships for them. Okay, the same thing when 100 years ago, when the Tatas had set up their steel plant in Jamshedpur, that used to, at that point in time, it was only jungles and mountains and hills and nothing else, right? So the Tatas had to, from their own money, from their own pocket, had to come up with a huge kind of a township for the working labor, for the supervisors, for the foremen, for the engineers, for the managerial staff. Everything had to be done by the Tatas with their own money. The similar thing is if you go to Gujarat, if you go to Maharashtra, you would see lot of factories. The same thing with at West Bengal, Orissa, where a lot of factories are there, but they are located in such areas where normally people would never live, right? They would not live there. So that is the reason why those factories now also have to set up urban settlements, and housing and everything. So those areas would now also have the output, that is the manufacturing output, and also the housing. So these are the agglomeration areas and the agglomeration economies. So in the pre-independence period, most of the manufacturing units were located in places from the point of view of overseas trade such as Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, etc. Consequently, these there emerged certain pockets of industrially developed urban centers surrounded by a huge agricultural rural hinterland. So, industry market linkage input, as it is very beautifully shown here, that what we are talking about here. The industry market linkage inputs, raw material is needed, of course, component parts, factories for production, factors of production, land, labor, capital, organization, infrastructure, all that is needed for manufacturing, and then all that needs to be transported to the factory, the venue where the location where all this would be converted into something else altogether, would be given a different form altogether. What is that place? That is factory. And now from the factory, the output products, that is of course you do the manufacturing, and then you have the transport, because now the market would not be inside the factory, would not be within the factory. It has to be, the output has to be taken to the market, and that is, for that you need transport. It could be trucks, it could be railway locomotives, trains, that is the goods trains. They also take the output. That is how Indian Railways makes money. Guys, please don't be under the impression that Indian Railways makes money only by carrying passengers. Of course, it makes a huge amount of money also by carrying goods. Okay, and then it takes to the market, and from the market the company makes money. Of course, once it sells its stuff in the market, it makes money, and then that money is again channelized for buying different resources, machinery, paying salaries to their employees, everything. So it is a cycle, and that is the cycle which has been shown here. The key to decision of the factory location is the least cost. Government policies and specialized labor also influence the location of industry. Ideal location, um, as you can see here, ideal location of an industry is about the cost of obtaining raw materials at the site, the cost of distribution of production, decision to locate factory at site, and cost of production at site. So all these things are important when a businessman is actually, whether it businessman in private sector or even government, when it comes to public sector, they have to consider all these factors, because otherwise you would have to invest so much of money in the day-to-day affairs of the manufacturing process, that it would become unprofitable for you, because the price of your goods would go up, and your competitor, who has actually taken consideration of these important points, and based on that he has set up his manufacturing unit, he would be able to keep his price at a very competitive price. And you would find that, yes, because if you have to make some money, the price that you have set in is way higher than, and so naturally you cannot go on and on beyond a point, because your competitor will thrash you. So, classification of industries list the various manufactured products you use in your daily life, such as Transistor, electric bulb, vegetable oil, cement, glassware, petrol, matches, scooters, automobiles, medicines, and so on. And if we classified the various industries based on particular criteria, then we would be able to understand their manufacturing better. Industries may be classified as follows. And on the basis of source of raw material used: agro-based: cotton, woolen, jute, silk, textile, rubber and sugar, tea, coffee, edible oil; mineral-based: iron and steel, yeah, cement, aluminium, machine tools, petrochemicals. Now, students, you have to understand one very important thing. When it comes to nature, you know, I gave you an example of ArcelorMittal steel plant in Gujarat, where they have all the stuff that is needed, the world's best, the latest technology, the machinery, all the skilled manpowers, and all those IIT and IIM graduates working there, and the skilled labor force working there. Everything is there, but they do not have the ore for the manufacturing. That is, they do not have the raw materials for that, which they import from other parts of India and which they bring from other parts of India, right? But that is something which is not a perishable item. That is something which they can afford to get it and procure it from other parts of India. But then if you have something like, if you are into, as what it is mentioned here, if you are into the production of, say, yeah, stuff made out of cotton, some wool, you know, jute, silk, textile. That is, these are the things you normally prefer that these should be around the areas of production. Okay, you normally expect them to be around the areas of production, because you just see, just take for example, have you seen a coffee factory or a coffee manufacturing unit anywhere in Uttarakhand? No, you haven't. You would find them only in South India. Okay, have you seen the tea factories in Delhi, or have you seen tea factories near Bhopal, Ujjain, or Lucknow, or Kanpur for that matter? No, you haven't, because the tea factories would be found only in the areas where the tea plant is, where the tea is cultivated. It would be in the places like Darjeeling and Assam and South India, areas around Coorg and Nilgiri mountains. That's how it would be, because that is where they are grown. So, of course, other factors are also there. Now, this is one of the very, very important factors. Okay, this is one of the very, very important factors, because you can understand, if I am growing tea leaves in Dehradun and my factory is there in Meerut, every day I have to probably ensure that the tea leaves have to be transported to Meerut. That would take about probably 6 or 7 hours, and by the time the whole manufacturing starts and everything, the tea leaves have already started fermenting. Okay, and the quality of tea would be very, very poor, compared to a situation where, if I have my tea garden in Dehradun, and the moment the plucking happens, within 30 minutes the whole tea that has been plugged through the day can be put inside the factories, and the production and the manufacturing process can immediately start within 30 minutes. So the fermentation would not happen, and definitely the quality of tea would be much, much better. So, guys, you can understand, say, if you have a milk cooperative, for that matter, right? So do you think you would be having extracting milk here in some village in Uttarakhand, and you would take all that milk probably to a factory somewhere near Noida to manufacture butter or ghee? Definitely you would not, right? Because whole milk would ferment, and if you want to preserve the freshness of milk, then you would need refrigerated tankers for that. That would be really adding to your costs, and then whatever the output which you want to have from that milk, it would turn out to be very, very expensive, rendering your product uncompetitive in the market. Thank you.